The film premieres in February 1979 at a steel factory in Lillian, Ohio. Elizabeth Lamb, one of the employees, was tragically killed in an accident. Her death affects the entire community, particularly her husband, Deputy Jackson, and their son Joe. The scene then shifts to a poor boy mourning his mother's untimely death as he plays on his favorite swing outside his house. Just then, Lou Denard's car arrives in front of the porch. Lou was one of the employees who worked at the steel factory alongside Elizabeth. Lou enters the house, guilt-ridden, and attempts to meet Jackson. However, the latter forcibly removes him and transports him in a police car. Fast forward 4 months, the air has changed, and Joe is eagerly anticipating his summer vacation. He intends to assist his best friend, Charles, in creating a Super 8 film for an upcoming festival. The film is about a zombie apocalypse, and the protagonist is a detective looking into a series of zombie incidents linked to a company called Romero Chemicals. Charles says he's cast Alice Denard as the female lead. She is none other than Lou's daughter and the most popular girl at school. Joe's face lights up when he hears Alice's name. As it turns out, he has a huge crush on her. That evening, Joe and Charles meet up with the rest of their crew, Carrie, Preston, and Martin. While the boys are discussing their usual business, Alice arrives in her father's car. She initially refuses to let Joe inside because he is the deputy's son and she does not have a driver's license. But after he promises not to complain to his father, she lets him take the back seat. The group then travels to the Lillian train station, where Charles intends to film a scene with Martin and Alice. According to the script, she has to persuade him to leave town due to a zombie outbreak. The filming soon begins, and Alice becomes so involved in her role that she starts crying. A few moments later, they hear the rumbling of an approaching train, which excites Charles. He decides to use the train shot to increase the production value of his film. The group resumes filming, and Joe notices a white truck approaching the tracks. Before he can warn the others, the truck collides with the train, causing a major derailment. An explosion occurs, scattering compartments all around. Meanwhile, Charles's Super 8 camera captures everything, including the crash and the strange events that ensue. During the chaos, Joe hears a loud pounding from one of the train compartments. The group also discovers strange white cubes scattered throughout the truck's remains. Joe takes one of the cubes, puts it in his pocket, and joins his friends in investigating the truck. Inside the vehicle, they discover the body of Dr. Woodward, their science teacher. Joe notices the map in his hand and quickly retrieves it. Just then, the doctor appears and instructs them to remain silent about what they have just witnessed. He warns the kids that if they say anything, they will go after their families and friends. Fearful of being caught, the group takes Charles's Super 8 camera and drives away quickly. Did they let Dr. Woodward die? Who cares? The following day, they deliver the film to a camera store for development. Joe promises to help Charles finish the movie, even offering to use his father's video camera. However, Charles is skeptical that Alice will want to help after what happened last night. He believes she is too scared to resume production with them, but Joe isn't going to let anything stand in the way of their film, so he goes to Alice's house to speak with her. Lou appears as he is attempting to persuade her to return. He warns Joe to stay away from his daughter, or else he will be in serious trouble. Alice dislikes her father's rude attitude toward her friend, so she decides to assist Joe and his crew. In the following scene, the gang returns to the train crash site to film. Joe notices that the train has Air Force markings, indicating that it belonged to the military. Later, at a restaurant, he looks at the map they obtained from Dr. Woodward and notices a red line drawn across the country. He believes it's a trail leading to a hidden military base, but Charles warns him not to discuss the accident or they'll all be killed. Meanwhile, Deputy Jackson investigates the crash site to find answers. The military cleanup crew, led by General Nelek, refuses to tell him anything other than that the cargo is not dangerous. Jackson watches the government men collect small white cubes and make plaster casts of some tire tracks on the ground. He knows something is going on, but they're not telling him. He later goes to his office and reports to his superior, Sheriff Pruitt, who ignores him and tells him to go home and rest. That night, Sheriff Pruitt stops at a gas station to fill up his car. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise coming from the bush. When he goes to investigate, something draws him into the darkness, and we only hear his terrified scream. The gas station attendant arrives shortly after to investigate, but he is shocked to find a badly crushed police car. He rushes inside to call 911, but an unseen force grabs him from behind and drags him away. The next day, the town is in disarray after learning that Sheriff Pruitt has gone missing. His smashed-up car is discovered near the gas station, with its windows completely shattered. Jackson summons the townspeople to the common chapel and learns about additional missing people, pets, and electrical devices such as ovens and generators. An elderly man also complains that his radio has been broadcasting gibberish for several days. Jackson inquires with his assistant privately and discovers that it is a military frequency emitted by a nearby water plant. He then instructs his officers to tune their radios to the frequency, and they soon learn about something called Operation Walking Distance. That sounds boring. Meanwhile, Joe and the boys are filming a scene outside Dr. Woodward's house, which is being cleared out by the military. Charles reportedly chose this location to increase the production value of his film. Just then, Jackson arrives on the scene and chastises his son for not listening. He had told him not to befriend Lou's girlfriend, Alice. He then seizes his video camera and locks him inside the vehicle. When Jackson notices the military clearing Dr. Woodward's home, he confronts General Nilek and demands answers. He also mentions hearing the phrase, Operation Walking Distance, on the radio frequency. This surprises the general, who eventually agrees to reveal what's going on. He invites Jackson to meet him in the evening at a nearby airfield. The latter agrees and eagerly heads to the specified location, but as soon as he arrives, he is arrested and locked up in a cell. Meanwhile, Alice pays Joe a visit at his home and attempts to persuade him that her father is not a bad man. Lou was severely inebriated on that fateful morning, and he was unable to attend work. So, Elizabeth was ordered to work his shift, but because she was unfamiliar with his machinery, she made a mistake that led to her death. This is the reason Jackson will never forgive Lou. However, Joe, who appears to be more understanding, claims he never blamed Lou for the incident. Just then, his focus shifts to the strange white cube he discovered near the crash site. It begins to vibrate and shoots through the wall with such force that it creates a hole in it. This freaks Alice out, and she dashes back home, where her drunken father has been waiting for her. Lou started drinking after his wife left him for another man. They then have an argument about Mom, which prompts Alice to flee on her bike in the middle of the night. Lou attempts to pursue her in his vehicle, but due to his inebriation, he crashes. He wakes up later when he hears Alice's terrified screams. In a shocking turn of events, the same creature from before reappears out of nowhere and kidnaps the defenseless girl. The following day, Charles and Joe, who are unaware of their friend's abduction, have their Super 8 camera repaired. They then examine the developed film, catching glimpses of a strange creature emerging from one of the wrecked train cars. While trying to figure out what they saw, they hear loud air raid sirens. When they step outside, they discover that the town has been evacuated, and everyone has been directed to the local military base. Despite their shock, Joe and Charles board a bus with the rest of the townspeople. When Joe arrives at the base, he searches for his father, but instead finds a terrified Lou. The latter claims his daughter was kidnapped by a creature, but no one believes him. Joe, who had just seen the creature in their recordings, is shocked to hear this. Determined to rescue Alice, he gathers his friends and the owner of the town's camera store to assist them in returning to town. They then sneak out of the base and proceed to Dr. Woodward's storage area at the school. Meanwhile, General Nilek is shown speaking with a bedridden Woodward. During their conversation, it is revealed that Woodward was a member of the team studying the creature. Back at school, the students discover films, tapes, records, and notes inside Dr. Woodward's storage area. These materials revealed that the creature landed on Earth in a sophisticated vessel in 1958, but it has been held by the military underground. General Nilek was determined to use it for military purposes. He tortured it, but this only made the creature more hostile to humans. The group also learns that the creature's ship contains technology that, when disassembled, transforms into the small white cubes discovered at the crash site. Because Dr. Woodward communicated with the creature, he formed a telepathic connection with it. His notes show that, as a result of human mistreatment, the creature had become hostile toward him. As the children try to find more, some soldiers burst in and arrest them. The boys are then transported to the base via military bus. While on their way, they hear a loud bang above them. Suddenly, the creature appears before them and begins attacking the soldiers. During the chaos, the driver is killed, and the bus crashes on the side of the road. Joe and his friends are luckily unharmed and manage to escape through the window. But the soldiers, including General Nilek, are not so lucky, as the creature brutally kills them all. Meanwhile, Jackson escapes his cell by tricking the guard and rendering him unconscious. He later learns from a child that Joe has fled to the city to save Alice. This worries him, so he immediately seeks out Lou and enlists his help in saving their children. After a while, the two find themselves in a war zone, where tanks and military weapons are firing uncontrollably. It turns out that the alien creature was responsible for the chaos and destruction. Joe and his friends seek refuge in a friend's home, but an explosion destroys the upper level. This causes extensive injuries to Martin, so Charles decides to stay behind and assist him. Meanwhile, Joe and Carrie rush to the cemetery to save Alice. Joe learned about the cemetery garage from Dr. Woodward's notes, and he believes the creature has been hiding there. In the following scene, the two boys dodge the explosions and make it to the garage. They then break through a door to discover a large hole that is several stories deep. Climbing down, they discover the creature's lair beneath the town's water tower. They discover various mechanical parts, including items that had gone missing among the townspeople. This stash contains a lot of vibrators. The boys also see several people hanging from the ceiling, including the missing sheriff and Alice. But before they can rescue her, they see the creature devouring another person. With time running out, Joe tells Carrie to light the fireworks they've brought along. The plan unexpectedly works, and the creature is distracted for a moment. This enables the boys to rescue Alice and escape with her. However, they are unable to travel far because they soon reach a dead end. The creature then catches up with them and grabs Joe with its claws. But as it is about to devour him, Joe speaks up. He confidently states that whatever happened to the creature was wrong, and that some humans are truly evil, but that doesn't mean it has to wipe out the entire population. Hearing this, the creature's eyes dilate, as if it understands the child's language. It then leaves them alone and disappears into the darkness. Joe, Alice, and Carrie return to the surface and assemble near the water tower. Just then, nearby mechanical objects are strangely drawn to the top of the tower. Truck trailers containing the white cubes also burst open, and the cubes begin to form around the tower's edges. During this time, Jackson and Lou reconcile with their children, and the creature begins climbing the tower. The mechanical objects and white cubes quickly transform into a massive spaceship, which the creature boards. The film concludes as everyone watches the spaceship ascend into the sky and travel into the alien universe. Subscribe for more videos like this, enable notifications, and leave a like to support the channel.